Alrighty. Hi, all. Welcome. Today, we're going to talk about the future of customer experience and what we call at Accenture, what we call the business of experience. I'm Heather Hildebrand. I'm a longtime Austinite and managing director for Accenture Interactive. It's Accenture's experience agency and the world's largest agency. I also help our clients with customer experience and digital transformation. And I also run our consumer business in the South. So today, I'm joined by two incredible panelists that I'm excited to hear from. Greg Rydell, Senior Marketing Officer from USAA, and Dan Corbin, Principal Product Manager from HEB. Greg, Dan, can you introduce yourselves?
Sure, Heather, happy to. My name is Greg Riedel. I'm Senior Marketing Officer with USAA Life Company and Investment Services Company. Just a quick background on USAA, if you're not familiar. We started 98 years ago when 25 military officers couldn't get property insurance and couldn't get auto insurance, and they pulled their resources together. And 98 years later, we've got 13 million members that we have the privilege and honor to serve with 35,000 employees. So I've been part of the team now for just over 11 years, served in many different functions, but in my current role, Senior Marketing Officer for our life insurance business and our investment services company. So happy to be here today. Thanks, Heather.
Awesome.
And I'm Dan Corbin. I'm a Principal Product Manager at HEB. If you're not from Texas or don't live here, you may not know that HEB is a Texas-based grocery chain. We were voted Grocer of the Year recently by industry leader. And I also teach product management at General Assembly, and I'm involved in the local product management community. I founded the Product League here in Austin, that has, I think we're up to about 1,800 product people, where we cover all aspects of product management and product marketing.
That's awesome. Excited that you're both here today with me. So today we're here because, look, we are in an experience renaissance. We are moving to a paradigm shift in how we approach customer experience and business strategy, in part due to accelerated change from the pandemic and the resulting change in our customer preferences and behavior, and in our own. Right? In our research, we found that brands' customer experience efforts are falling short, really, in their front office transformation. This is because the typical implementation of customer experience, it's superficial and incomplete. We get focused on a better app, a better website, a better way to convert a customer. You all know how it is. CX really has become a function of a work stream or marketing's responsibility, and we're working from similar design standards. So now brands are suffering from a sea of sameness. Brands that are leading are looking for what the human outcomes should be, what their needs are, identifying their problems and how they can solve those for customers, and putting the enabling tech in service of those customer needs and making that the business priority. As a result, they're gaining greater brand differentiation, increased profitability. Think about Nike. They went from selling shoes to making you a better runner and in the business of running and in the business of athletics. Think about Netflix. They didn't just create a movie or streaming service. They transformed their entire company to own the experience around programming and what we watch at home, to the business of entertainment. So we are here today to discuss how these two leading brands, USAA and HEB, and Dan and Greg, how they think about and lead their businesses through experience. So let's start with questions, and then we'll hit up the audience with questions towards the end. So let's talk more about how your companies think about experience. Greg, USAA is known for its mission to serve customers' financial needs at all stages of their lives. Legendary service and a deep purpose and brand values. USAA is clearly on the forefront of customer experience. Can you share more there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the fantastic benefits that we have is our customer member centricity. It's right there in our mission statement. It's to facilitate the financial security of our members and their families. So everything that we do starts and ends with a member, including every meeting that we have as an organization. People will share individual mission moments, things that have impacted them. We'll share customer stories on a regular basis and really ensure that the customer's at the heart of everything that we're doing. And I've seen decisions here made that at a publicly traded company you wouldn't make because they're not in the best interest of the long-term profitability of the company, but that they're in the best interest of our membership. So that really allows us to set the stage for what we believe is the right decision to make. And I would say that to take it a step further, building out the metrics that ensure you're measuring that performance has been critical in our journey. Both Net Promoter Score and overall satisfaction are scorecard metrics that we hold ourselves accountable to on an annual basis. It's part of our performance measurement, all the way down to the frontline employees, up to the CEO. So I think we all know that you get what you measure, and that's really important in ensuring the customer value chain is where it needs to be.
That's great. That's great. Dan, let's talk about HEB. HEB is a much loved brand with deep roots in our community, and HEB serves the health of its customers, nourishing us with quality food at great prices. HEB has been more than a grocer and demonstrated it's part of the community, right? Helping with Hurricane Harvey and really ramping up digital services during COVID. I know you were at the center of that. Can you share more about how you think about experience?
Sure. I do want to just say, a lot of the things that Greg mentioned is similar to HEB. And as a USAA member, I definitely see like those things that he was talking about. And that idea of great customer experience and making sure that the Net Promoter Score is up is relevant and is definitely perceived by me as a customer. But in the case of HEB, this has been a really interesting year because we really are about helping you take care of yourself and your family. And so that we primarily do that through providing lots of great options for food and meals and meal like ideas. But this year it took on a whole different look and feel because of the pandemic. And we really had to shift our priorities drastically to ensure not only the health and safety of our workers, but our customers. So that meant ramping up our curbside and delivery. And the way that we are able to do that is because of the really ingrained approach of HEB to put customers first. We always start with the customer and work backwards. And throughout a grocery company is really complex. You've got warehouses and transportation and lots of different suppliers, and you have people in store, and then you have the people who are building the website and the apps. And all of us really need to work together to make sure that we are focusing on what are the most important problems that we're trying to solve. What are our customers experiencing in lockdown that maybe they didn't have before? So you saw lots of this in the way that we made certain products available to more people, how we offered things like the free delivery for seniors so they didn't have to risk catching COVID by having to go into the stores. I think we were well prepared to take on the challenges of the pandemic because we've always considered ourselves a major player in the community, and our job is really not just to sell groceries, but to help people's lives. So if there's times that we can add extra and do things, whether it's a hurricane, there's lots of different emergencies and that come across Texas. The pandemic was a unique one, but we were in a position to be able to make those shifts in priority.
Yeah, so I think, based on Greg's comment, I think, get what you measure, right? It's really important to measure customer experience and keep yourselves accountable to that and delivering on that brand value. And then also really focusing on, I think putting the customer at the front and, kind of working back from that is exactly what we're talking about today, right? And making sure that we're organizing the entire business around what that customer is looking for and watch it, being involved with them, right, throughout their journey. However, that's going to change, right? And the pandemic really shine a light on, you've got to, stay engaged with them, right, and really watch what they're doing, and even look at what problems are they trying to solve by, working with my brand, but also how has that changed, in their day to day, and how has that changed now, and especially during COVID, right? Now, look, so our research has said that CX is falling short, right? Customer demands and expectations are outpacing 20th century organizational structures just because they can't evolve fast enough, right? We've got these kind of structures that are just, that need to be more agile and need to move forward. And as customer experience is evolving faster than how companies are evolving. We talked about sea of sameness, right? Across brands having difficulty differentiating because we're all following the same standards. And then, the flight to meaning and purpose is so important as customers value purpose more and more, and brand responsibility is more important than ever, especially accelerated due to COVID. Dan and Greg, can you talk about just how do you stay ahead of customer demands? I mean, it is, and those customer problems. And, Dan, you talked about identifying customer problems. Like, how do you do that? How do you do that and do it really well, but also just be nimble and agile? It's a lot to take on.
Yeah, we're fortunate with HEB in that we have no shortage of feedback loops. So we have a lot of engagement with our customers. If I get texts from friends all the time giving me suggestions and letting me things that they know about or that they love about HEB. So it's really important for us to make sure that we're collecting all of that information and processing it in a way that helps us look at it, see themes, and then discover insights. And you're so right about the CX sameness. For us, we would be making a mistake if we're like, oh, well, our competitor is doing that, so we just need to roll out that feature. That's not the way that we approach things. We really get involved in the problem space. What are the problems that our customers are having? So, before the pandemic, our experienced designers they fanned out all over Texas, and they would go into people's homes and they would kind of, sit with them and say, talk to me about what you're going through, your day to day, and like the struggles that you have as you're trying to go from work to soccer practice to making dinner. So for us, starting with the customer, working backwards, not just trying to play, feature matching with customers, but knowing who our customers are and understanding their problems, and then having our responses kind of emanate from that beginning has really been key for us.
Sounds like, might I add, being really confident in solving for that in a unique way, right? In the way that HEB believes is the right way to take care of their customers. I think we'll talk about, competition in a bit, but, you have to pay attention to what your competitors are doing, but you also, it's more important to really focus on customers and making sure you're providing all the value that you can to them.
Yep.
Greg, how about you? How do you stay ahead of customer demands?
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, before I get there, show Dan and HEB some brand love. Lifelong customer and always been a huge advocate. But I can say that through the COVID response, you guys have you've earned every accolade. It's been phenomenal. Yeah. And both for myself, my family, we really appreciate everything that you've done. So back to the business at hand. I think that when we look at our customers' demand, our members' demand, the expectations are very high, right? We've got members who are deployed all across the world who need to be able to access their accounts at any time, at any moment, and need to be able to transact very quickly. So I actually think that us establishing a bank 30 years ago was really critical, because we had to figure out how do we solve to being able to serve our members without a face-to-face presence. We have no branches, right? So we were the first to develop the remote deposit capture on a mobile device. And I think that kind of really springboarded not only our bank, but our other lines of business as well. As you can imagine, property and casualty, life insurance businesses, they're pretty stodgy and slow to innovate. So the bank has helped to pull forward the capabilities that we've needed to enable those other lines of business. As it relates to specific insights for our members, similar to Dan and the HEB team, we spend a lot of time with our members. We gain a ton of feedback through surveys. We invest a lot in research, and we try to skate to where the puck is going, to continue to look in advance. What are the changes that are coming? How do we serve the many different needs across our members, across multiple life stages? We don't have the ability to say we're just going to focus on Gen Z and millennial. We've got a large portion of our members who are boomers, who may be digital adopters, but may not quite be as advanced as those younger generations. So we have to find the ways to meet the needs of those members as well.
That's great. You talked a lot about data, and both of you talked about researching and spending time with your customers. Look, the blending qualitative and quantitative data is going to be so important to really understanding customers at a real, in a holistic way. Can you just give a little more detail about, can either of you give a little more detail about like how do you handle that, and how do you balance the qualitative and quantitative?
Go ahead, Greg.
Okay, yeah, sure. We have a lot of qualitative data. I'd say no shortage of that. Okay. For us, I think it's the balance between how do we appropriately respond and turn those data that data into insights that allow us to make meaningful changes to the organization, to develop meaningful products, and to distribute them in a quick and timely fashion. And that's one area we talked when you were mentioning earlier. How do you have the ability to pivot? I think that when you look at a large organization like USAA, clearly we have to set, a 3-year strategy, but then also have the flexibility to pivot when something like a pandemic comes upon us. So leveraging that data and those insights to really make meaningful changes and investing in the appropriate areas as quickly as possible is really the focus area for our organization.
Yeah, and I would say that we have a similar approach in that we definitely have lots of data. We actively seek out feedback from our customers, and we have a lot of digital data that we can look to understand how, just understanding customer behavior. And I think for us, in trying to balance the two, we always want to make sure that the data is it's serving kind of like our overall vision and mission of what HEB is and what we mean to the community. So it's really helping us be able to figure out how to prioritize. And what's great about HEB is there's people that have been in the industry and in the stores. Like if you go into a store, it'll, everyone's got their name tag, and it tells you how many years they've been there. So you could go in and you're guaranteed to see people who have been there for 20 and 30 years. So they have a level of expertise and understanding of the customers in the stores that we just can't get out of, digital data. So being able to marry those two together and to have that help us prioritize to say, okay, how do we continue to grow and make sure that HEB is going to be here, be relevant, and be the grocers of Texas, the grocer's choice for Texans for 10, 20, 30, 50 years in the future.
Okay, so that leads me to my next question, actually. I want to talk about employees because, look, since COVID, 77% of CEOs said they will change the way their brand engages with and interacts with customers. They recognize change is needed for business growth, durability, and relevance. And one way to get closer to customers, really understand them, is through, not just through your touch points, your digital touch points and your store touch points, but also through your employees. And they're so much a part of your customer experience. How are you thinking about how employees are at the forefront of, living those brand values and understanding customer experience?
Well, at HEB, I know that regardless of what part of the company you're in, we're all working towards delivering a superior, like omni-channel experience. So it's not good enough to have a great digital experience or mobile experience in scheduling your curbside pickup if things kind of fall apart there. So it's very important for us to make sure that we're kind of tearing down the silos and working across the entire company. And there's ways that HEB actively makes sure that those silos aren't building up. So even though I oversee a lot of back-end product management and building of services, I've done curbside training. I've delivered groceries and put them in people's cars. I've gone to the help center and heard what people are calling in and asking about, whether it's issues in the store or issues on the website. I've been in the back of stores, and the same thing we bring in HEB. All of our employees are we call them partners. We brought in other partners to show them how we go about our design experience, how what do we mean by product management. So tearing down the silos, understanding that we all need to work together to deliver that omni-channel experience has been key. And HEB is very deliberate from a leadership standpoint in making sure that we're all empowered to work together to achieve those goals.
That's great.
Yeah, that's great, Dan, and very, very similar engagement that we have across USAA from a frontline employee perspective. Our MSRs, member service reps, have been the backbone of this organization for a very long time. And as we look to build out our digital capabilities to try to get to parity with humans, which we know is near impossible, it's so critical that we as leaders with the organization spend time on the phone. So we have whiteboarding sessions. We do listening posts. Just last month, we had an MSR appreciation day where we had live feedback from some of our top performing MSRs with all of the executives online line with an active Q&A to really solicit that frontline unfiltered feedback. I want to go back, Heather, to your comment about CEOs saying that their brand will likely have to change its voice and tone. Our CEO, Wayne Peacock, actually took over just at the beginning of this year, and he's been at USAA for close to 30 years and has served in many different functions in the organization. At one time, he was over the marketing and communications team, and he basically declared that he sees himself as the chief communication officer, not only for our members, but also for our employees. And the intentional time and effort that he's putting into communication, not only surrounding employee safety and welfare for COVID, right, but the important messaging around key military events and holidays, and ensuring that our frontline employees know that their voice is being heard, and that changes that have been long overdue are coming, and they're seeing that paid off. It makes a tremendous amount of impact on the culture and on employee satisfaction. And we actually do track employee NPS as well in order to ensure that our employee the way that we treat and interact with our employees mirrors the same way that we treat and interact with our members.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was going to say that leads me to my next question, which is really around, customer experience has traditionally been like a CMO agenda, right? And it's really moving to the CEO agenda and expressed, really throughout the company. And it's really important to do that because, I've both articulated that, customer experience is something that requires, more than marketing. It requires the entire company to really organize around that and orchestrate, again, to solve those problem statements for the customer. But that shifting to the customer experience, to the business of experience, really requires the entire company to think about that customer. And it's taken what it was a CMO agenda item to something that's the CEO agenda item. And, in our research, we found that customer experience is on, more than half of the agenda for, other C-suite as well, CFOs, CIOs, CTOs, you get the point. Can you talk a little bit more about just, how this is shifting across all the other teams?
Yeah, happy to. I actually think I've seen it over my 10-year tenure as we have shifted operating models. So Wayne, as I mentioned before, has been with the company for a while. He was over an organization called MX, as member experience, that sat in the center of the company about 10 years ago when I first joined. And that the intention there was to put the member at the center of all that we were doing, from a call center, digital, and research and data and analytics perspective. I think over time, though, what we realized, to your point, is that those decisions need to be ingrained in the business. So what we're seeing now is more of a decentralization of a lot of those functions back into the lines of business in a general manager model, which means that we've got experienced owners and designers and experts that sit within the product line itself, who understand not only the P&L, but really the needs of the member that are very specific to a product that they are actively managing every day. Like, for example, like our mortgage team. So I think that decentralization, bringing that expertise out into the business while still having a skinny middle for governance and really deep insights, has led us to making even faster decisions and responding throughout the entire omni-channel chain, not just within the center, kind of pushing out information to the business silos.
Yeah, I think the best example at HEB has really been the digital transformation that we started probably about 5 years ago, and it has really ramped up over the past 2 years. For us, we were always a great retailer, and what the challenge was, we needed to become a great technology company because we are now going against companies like Amazon. So we had to become a great technology company before they became a great grocery company. And so that has really been something that has permeated every level of the business. And I know that that idea of delivering a great customer experience, I work primarily with very technical back-end teams, but the question that we always start with is, why are we doing this, and who is this for, and what is the problem that we're trying to solve? So I know that I've been at past companies where those kind of really deep embedded teams, they could go in a vacuum, solve some technical problem. But is it really driving and having impact on the customer experience? You don't really know. So what we have tried to do at HEB is, by starting with the customer and working backwards, understanding the problem that you're trying to solve at every single level, and how your role in your squad is going to work towards coming up with a solution that the customers are going to love.
So that brings me to a point that I skipped over a little earlier, which is agility. So, I mean, responding in COVID and just being more relevant to customers and, more responsive and really understanding what those unmet needs are is going to require a faster pace. And I think we can all agree that we've all been moving faster this summer, and since COVID, since before. But can you give me a lens into talk a little bit more about just what does agility look like to both of you, and really how has that changed during COVID? Because you're obviously leaders have been thinking about customer experience first and foremost, before COVID and for a long time. But how has that changed, and just what does agility look like to you? Trying to get a better vision of just what that is day to day.
Yeah, I think for us, I saw it in the decision velocity at HEB in order to say, okay, these are the changes that we're making. These are the things that we need to do to respond to the changes in the environment right away. And that ability to make quick commitments and just having a bias for action definitely helped. There's so many variables that go into this. And I do know that leveraging great technology, having the right technology stack that allows you to decouple certain functionality so that you can innovate faster is really important. So there's a lot of collaboration that needs to occur between business, products, and engineering. So always making sure that you're investing in technology so that you can innovate faster, and then coupling that with good leadership and solid decision making, I think has probably been what I've noticed the most, especially since COVID hit.
I love that, Dan, especially on the decision right front. We have, over the years, definitely struggled with the ability to move quickly. And I, never let a good crisis go to waste. I think that when we saw how quickly our organization was able to respond to COVID, we took 35,000 employees and we were fully remote within 30 days. And we're still operating remotely. And once we could see that we had the ability to respond there, I think our CEO used that as an opportunity to say, we can do this in all aspects of our business. So clearly articulating, here are the decision rights that I have as a leader, and that starts at the top, and cascading that down so that you're able to push as many decisions as possible to the frontline employees, those who are actually doing the work and helping to bring things to life for our members, has been critical for us. I also think from an investment perspective, investing in automation, finding ways to be able to scale as quickly as possible. That's an area that we have, I would say we were lagging behind. We were not investing in our infrastructure in a way that we needed to. We weren't modernizing our data stacks and our tech stacks. So over the last last 2 years, we've really started to invest significantly. And over the next 3 years, we're going to invest over $1 billion in upgrading our tech stack as well. So I feel like that will allow us to have more flexibility in order to serve our members and their changing needs in a moment's notice.
Oh, that's great. Before we jump to the next question, I do want to remind you we'll do Q&A at the end. So if you do want to share your questions, we'll take them towards the end. Actually, so let's jump to technology for a minute. You both mentioned technology and how important that is. I think it's the human experience, right? That is at the forefront, the customer experience. But then how does the technology enable that? Informed by data and insights, qualitative and quantitative, led by strong leadership and strong decision making. So what we've seen is BX leaders have a clear view of the technology platforms that use them. How are you, can you talk more about how you're thinking about technology and how important that is to, driving experience, and maybe give us a few examples?
Sure, happy to. As you can imagine, large banks and property and casualty and life company systems don't typically speak to one another. So we've been undergoing some massive overhauls, not only to our operational data infrastructure within each line of business, but also on the data services level that will allow us to more effectively bring the information to the middle that allows us to create one seamless experience for our members. So investing in where we believe there are really critical data core elements and getting that standardization and alignment across our CTO organization has really been a work in progress, one that we've got a clear roadmap now. Accenture's been part of that engagement for us and ensuring that we have that alignment and that we've got the right response mechanisms in place in order to determine what should be considered a central data element, what should remain in the business. How can we ensure that we've got all of the technology in place to not only have the availability for our members, but also in order to have the responsiveness that's necessary to, queue up personalized experiences and based on their product ownership or maybe a service engagement that they have. So it's big, it's hairy. It's one that's been elevated to the top level of the organization with a direct report to the CEO being responsible for all of those data layers across the multiple lines of business.
Yeah, it's a daunting challenge, and we are trying to develop and go as part of our digital transformation, whole new lines of business, and couple that with a industry that has done things in a very specific way for many, many years. So we're moving fast and at different paces at different parts of the business. But like USAA, we had the same things where we need to evolve tech stacks, move off some legacy things, decide what is core to our business and what do we want to build internally? Where can we leverage maybe some things off the shelf? So for us, we really do feel that in going out and getting great talent, we're in competition with companies like Amazon and Facebook and Google, because when people are having their digital experience, they're not going to say like, oh, it's only HEB. I don't care that it's not as good as my experience when I'm at the Apple store, or if I'm even doing something like Airbnb, where you have an online to a real world experience. So yeah, it's definitely a challenge, but I think we're fortunate in that the same way with USAA, the leadership is bought into it, understands that it's critical to having that business of experience and being able to deliver a great customer experience at every level of the business.
No, that's great. I think actually that definitely leads me to my next point around, we have a term called liquid expectations at Accenture. At a high level, customer expectations are fluid across industries and shaped by all of our experiences across brands that provide different products and services. Customers will not only be evaluating your brand based on the products and services that you sell, but by the experiences you and any other company create, really regardless of industry. It means your competitors are no longer only your direct competitors. Your competitors are the top brands who create and set expectations for everybody else. If you think about Amazon, right? They set the expectation that you can get fast, easy shipping in 2 days, now one. Not only do they set those expectations for retailers, but they set the expectation of just like fast, easy, convenient access really for every brand to execute against. And this has implications for BX, right? Because the better the experience those BX companies create, the higher the expectations those customers will have for those great experiences. As a result, the distance between those leaders and laggards will widen. And once a brand creates a new way of doing things, takes root, that customer interest and usage, it will coalesce around the experience and the brand capable of delivering it. So talk to me about, how are you setting new expectations that brands will need to follow in your industry and outside of it? And where do you think some of the other brand leaders are, and what expectations are they creating?
We definitely see this at HEB, because I was talking about having to decide what is part of our core domain and our core business and what is it, where in years past, maybe we would outsource whole areas of our digital experience. That is core to who we are as an omni-channel retailer. So the same way Apple expanded and created amazing in-person experience with the Apple stores, we need to be able to do the same thing and create amazing experience, whether it's in the mobile or the website. And we definitely look to see, okay, how we want to be able to mirror the level of customer experience and support that you get at a Zappos. So we've talked to them. We talk to industry leaders regardless of industry, so that we can figure out, all right, how can we continue to raise the bar and to meet those expectations that people have, because they are not differentiating between grocery stores and other retailers. They want it to be a great online experience and when they go in person.
Yeah, Dan, I totally agree on the experiential front, right? I mean, we're in banking and insurance, not setting the standard for anyone. We're quickly following and disrupting wherever we can. I'll take it a step further. I think we also have to know, like, where can we win and where should we invest to be best in class and industry leading, and then where are there areas where, you know what, it's not worth the investment and it's not a space that we can win in. And I'm going to give an example. Very recent for us. We had an investment management company for 30 years, and it was a strong company. We had probably about 1 million members who invested with us. But when we looked at the external environment, the Fidelities, the Schwabs of the world, they were just investing so much more than we could in that business to get it to scale. And we came to the tough decision a couple of years ago that, you know, it was in our members' best interest to not be in the manufacturing business anymore, but rather to partner with a Charles Schwab and Victory Capital and have those products be referred products. So it was a significant decision, and not one that we took lightly, but we actually moved out of the investment management company business and sold those businesses. And now we refer to industry leaders. So that's an area where, you know, we just saw that we couldn't meet the needs that our members had, and they deserve better. And we decided to partner with a couple of firms who we felt could deliver them the services they required.
That's phenomenal. That's a phenomenal example of really putting the customer at the center, of really looking at how can you deliver on what they need, and where do you need to invest, and where do you potentially need to partner, right? You see that a lot in some of the retail and CPG experiences, especially with the growth of marketplaces. Okay, so you mentioned a great point, Greg, about, you know, where can we win and how should we invest in it? What should we invest in? And I think understanding, you know, really understanding your brand purpose and customer problems and unmet needs is part of that. Is understanding, you know, what should we tackle, right? What problems should we solve and which problems should we not solve? Which is so important to, you know, laddering up to that brand purpose. And you know, have a great example of how you've done that. So that leads me to purpose. And before we get to Q&A, I wanted to talk about brand purpose. You know, it's a big topic right now. And, you know, today, 8 out of 10 customers say purpose is at least as important to them as customer experience, at least. And purpose is crucial, right? Can you talk more about how purpose is embedded into your org, into the products, into the services, and how that reflects into the experiences that you want to create?
Sure, absolutely. I might sound like a broken record, but I've talked a lot about our mission and the members that we serve. So the purpose is definitely embedded in everything that we're doing. But I'll give a specific example, and because I support Life Company, I'll talk about how we've built products to serve the very specific needs of our military members. So as an active duty member in the military, you have access to servicemen group life insurance. When you choose to separate or retire from the military, you have an option to convert that into veterans group life insurance, which is a fine product, but it does increase in price over your lifetime. We've built a rider into our life insurance policy, which allows our members to, if they've got a term policy in place, when they separate, they just simply call us or go online, and they can double the amount of coverage they have with no additional underwriting required. So even if they've had a lot of injuries or issues throughout their military career, they won't be, you know, given an upcharge. They'll be given the rate based on what their previous underwriting requirements were. So it's a very specific product, rider, and benefit that was built for the active duty members serving. And that's just one example or one use case of embedding that specificity into the products that meet their members' needs.
That's amazing. That's a great example.
Yeah.
That is really impressive. Um, for HEB, that sort of the brand, I think for us, we really associate ourselves very closely with Texas and the Texas communities, and the fact that we are in so many small communities across the entire state and within large cities. So for us, it's we if you look at some of our slogans, we talk about my HEB. That's the way people, before it became a slogan, it was just something that always people talked about, like, oh, I'm going to my HEB, because they have that association, that closeness to the store, because they feel that the store cares about them. And another one is another saying that we have is because people matter. I've heard leaders say that we're in the people business, we just happen to sell groceries. And for us, that is not just a slogan, it's something that we try to live and breathe every single day. And so it definitely comes out when we have emergencies like hurricanes or the pandemic, but it's something that we do on a day in and day out basis. The way that we get involved in communities, be able to leverage a lot of our resources and expertise to be able to help in different ways. So like right now, one specific example I'll give you is we had a lot of different things that we could have prioritized from an HEB digital standpoint, but we knew that the economy was devastating for just a lot of people. So we really focused on people who are value shoppers. And so that meant making sure that we're making coupons available, offering new ways to get coupons, but also our number one priority was being able to integrate SNAP benefits into our curbside and delivery, so that if you were receiving benefits, you didn't have to go into the store if you were immune compromised. Another example was we absolutely had a massive expansion of favor delivery for the sole specific purpose of being able to deliver groceries at no cost to seniors. So I think for us, that's just ingrained in the way that HEB has worked for the past 115 years. And I think it's the reason why so many people in Texas really associate us with the whole state.
Wow, that's great. Examples from two great brands. Let me just ask one more question before I jump to the audience questions. Let's talk about experience innovation. So we talked about tech, the importance of data, qualitative and quantitative data, leadership, fast decision making. And I think, Dan, you had mentioned innovation. Can you talk a little bit more about how you handle experience innovation? Because it's so important to delivering those, new experiences and testing them in an agile way, which you've covered. But how are you innovating on experience, and how are you doing it at scale?
It's really interesting. So I talked a little bit earlier about how our experienced designers have gone out to all different parts of Texas to think about how HEB might be able to improve their lives. And I remember sitting in a lot of just user research where we were just putting up all different sorts of ideas. We had 30 different concepts of which we were presenting to people about how they might be able to get dinner for their family. So we have lots of different personas, and we were looking at the provider, like the mom who's coming home from work, picking up the kids, and then still trying to kind of make sure that everyone's eating healthy at night. So we had everything from vending machines to hot things, and then hot meals that are fully made, things that you can put together, quick recipes. So we are just like the company has always challenged us to expand, to think, and to try to be innovative. So when we come up with all these different ideas, you never really know what is going to appeal to people. Vending machines for food did not. That didn't work. So you won't be seeing that anytime soon. But it was really impressive because some of the concepts that I thought would be winners, they didn't resonate as much with people. So that's why it's so important for us to always start with the customer and work backwards, and kind of not have just a top-down approach to business, or just copy something that maybe someone else saw. Like, we can go and get ideas, but we always need to validate. And that sort of idea of encouraging everyone to experiment and innovate and just validate every step of the way is going to help us as we continue to move along in what is really a competitive market.
That's really helpful.
Similarly, we follow human-centered design principles as well, just really designing around the experiences of our members and deliver in an agile way so we can deliver iteratively and improve incrementally. A couple of things I'll add on is that we do have an internal team focused specifically on innovation. They're funded by the lines of business to really focus on the unknown knowns and ways that we can solve issues that we know our members are having that we don't have a solution for today. And those teams are also fed by an internal system that allows employees all across the company to submit their ideas and have others vote on those ideas and get a certain level of seed funding to try to test out new experiences and ideas. So that's been a really great function of the organization over the past 5 years. The last thing I'll add is we do have a corporate development team that's out there looking across the nation to see are there firms that are doing things really well that we should be investing in, that we should look to acquire if there's a specific need that our members have that we can't develop or manufacture ourselves. So I think it's innovation is the key for us to continue to be relevant in the marketplace, and we invest in many different aspects of that innovation chain.
Yeah, be relevant and differentiate your brand.
That's right.
Okay, so let's move to the audience questions. Here's a great one. How do you justify a change in outreach in a product, et cetera, or change in direction or something you feel is right in your gut when stakeholders are not necessarily aligned?
So I'll give an example that was really tough for us this year. There were a couple of products on the banking side of the house that we had been extending to members for quite some time, and they were very relevant products to them, and they acquired them at a pretty healthy clip. After going through some reviews with the OCC and various compliance firms, it was deemed that we had to make some modifications and changes to those products in order for us to continue to offer them. So we had to shelve the products, and we had a lot of member dissatisfaction that came from that. But we had to look at the needs of the greater membership and the association first. And we knew that it made some of our members unhappy, but we had to rapidly respond and make the changes that were necessary for us to be compliant in order to put them back into the marketplace. So sometimes you have a short, painful stint that you have to go through, knowing that you're building for the greater good.
That's helpful. Dan?
I think so if you have an idea and a sense in your gut, I think then you have to go out and really, it's really an assumption. You need to validate that. So for us, I always encourage them, go get the data, see if you can, if there's in some digital data that can back up your insights, use that. Go and talk to people and come up with, do the user research to show that, hey, this actually might have legs. And then, be willing to work in a very lean fashion. How do you come up with a very simple pilot to get that next level of information you need so that you can continue to show hey, this actually is a small investment that we're making to prove out or disprove an idea. So I think that lean approach to such things is a great way to get stakeholders buy-in, because you're willing, if you're willing to kind of carve off a little bit of resources and an engineer and maybe one product manager or designer to do something in a very limited time-boxed way, that's how I've seen the most success. And also, always, just with anything, know your audience. Make sure you understand that the stakeholders understand what's in it for them and how it's going to make their life easier. So having ideas in your gut is good, but having data to back it up is better.
So be ready to make a difficult change and go through that transition, right? And think about the greater good, get the data that you need, develop that, into a lean fashion, and you'll say a pilot, and then really know your audience and how you need to deliver and how to help them understand the problem and the solution and the data that you have to prove it out.
Yeah, just make sure hey, this, I have this idea. I think it's part of our larger overall, maybe it's an OKR, an objective or goal that the company has. And you have to, just kind of let them understand why it's worth taking a risk on.
Yeah, that's helpful. So another good question was, what's the next big thing in tech to improve user experience, and what can entrepreneurs do to address this market?
One thing that and this is just me spouting, so this is not HEB talking. We don't have any plans to do this, but I really think that you can see with data analytics, and there's so much customer information out there, and that you can actually get to a point where you're doing predictive commerce, so that if you know that Heather, buys these items for her family, next time I do a shipment, I'm going to include this other thing because I think her kids are going to love this. So being able to use data to help people make decisions that they didn't even know they wanted to make. So, and not in a predatory way, but really in a way that's easy for them. Like, oh, you know what? I do like that. And now I'm going to send that back. I say that based on my experience using Stitch Fix, because I hate shopping for clothes. Absolutely hate it. And they have a lot of great underlying machine learning that says, okay, Dan is your typical suburban dad who likes to wear hoodies, and I'm going to send him these, Van sneakers because I think he's going to like them. And it's amazing. I've seen how, as I've made more decisions, their predictive, analytics have gotten better and better. So I think that there's opportunities like that in other, areas when it comes to user experience.
So I think I'm going to build on that. I think it's a very similar thought that I have. And again, I'm speaking on behalf of myself as a consumer as well, not necessarily USAA. When I look at the dramatic changes that are happening across consumer privacy, GDPR, CCPA out in California, I think, first litigation, first fine was slapped on Twitter yesterday in the EU. Customers just want more privacy, and they want to understand what we know about them. So I think getting the right to use that information to serve their needs, to your point, Dan, like that's enhancing your experience based on the behaviors you've exhibited. So building out a customer data platform that allows you to get that access to your customers' information and use it in a relevant way to them, and have them know that you're using it, not that it's being bought or sold on another market. I think that's going to be vital for us. For me personally, as a marketer, that's really important, privacy and really making sure that our customers know that we are using their information with the greatest of intent. But I think also just as people, we need to make sure that we're very mindful of what individuals or companies have access to as we move forward.
That's a great example, and I think Apple recently, they're coming out with a version of like the equivalent of a nutritional label surrounding privacy and how data is being used. And I could not agree more with that. That's an excellent point.
So we have another question around, what piece of advice would you offer a startup to set them on the correct path regarding understanding the customer experience? It sounds like data analytics.
Wow. Well, as someone who's never been part of a startup organization, I can do my best. I think really understanding the needs that you are serving and the insights that are derived from your core customers has to drive everything that you're building or designing. Whether you've got tens of millions of dollars to invest in building out experiences, or if you've just got a couple $100 to develop a product that you think is relevant for your target market, don't ever lose sight of that. You need to have that owner's mentality that if this is your last dollar to spend, how are you investing it in a way that will be compelling to your end customer? And I think we lose sight of that sometimes when we've got all these intermediaries that are in between us and our customers. So always keep the customer at the front of everything you're doing.
Totally agree. I think that's really the key. I think most products and services fail. I think a lot of times people focus a lot on the underlying technology, products don't fail because it's technically impossible to do. They fail because they don't have a market. And understanding what the customer problem is and how you can solve it and bring a solution that is differentiated from other that are on the market. And if you really approach things from a jobs to be done perspective, that's going to have you're going to have a much greater chance of success. Because I always, like, one thing I teach in my class is the Segway. It was an amazing piece of technology, and people thought it was going to transform the way cities were built. But the reality was it served the market of mall cops and possibly postmen or tour companies, but not an everyday Americans. So focus on the customer, like Greg said, and work backwards from there, and never lose sight of how you're trying to solve problems for your target audience.
Maybe also go back to that, get the data, right? Develop a simple lean pilot and really know your audience, right, as you're pitching for the funding that you might need to fund that.
Yeah, because your original idea is not going to be the right one. You're going to have to go through many iterations, and being able to honestly gather the data, assess it, and then make decisions from that point, not just, you can't treat your ideas as precious. You have to see them evolve and grow up.
Yeah, because as you talked about earlier, there's a lot of ideas that you've had that you just didn't resonate, and you were surprised that that they didn't work.
Yep. That's why you do the research.
One last question. What would you say is an expectation that has been set by another industry that is disrupting you now?
For HEB, I think it's a lot of it. There's a lot of examples around how we communicate with our customers. They expect to be able to notify things in real time. They want to be able to order ahead and just have things be really, really convenient for them. So, and yeah, there's just a lot. I don't know why. Like, I think about the ease of use of some things like Chick-fil-A. People who get on that. Well, people love Chick-fil-A to begin with, but I've had people that they're like, I use it all the time. The app is great, and that sort of loyalty. If you build a great product, you can have that sort of loyalty, and that's the bar that we're trying to raise and kind of measure ourselves against. And it's hard because we probably started later in the game than some people, but we're moving fast. But yeah, it's tough because you're always trying to innovate, but the innovators are innovating as well. So you just have to keep moving fast.
Going back to agility, experience, innovation. Go ahead, Greg.
There's disruption in every industry. You think about autonomous vehicles and the potential impact to insurance. You think about Apple Pay and disruption to the credit card market for our bank. I'll focus on Life Company because that's my primary focus area. In order to get the best rate for life insurance, you still have to get a blood draw. And that takes a lot of time, and it causes a ton of friction for our members. So you've got companies like Lemonades and Ladder, and they're trying to find ways to deliver a low-cost product without having to go through the full underwriting process. And to me, that's the area where you think about experience and removing friction. And if you've got the value prop there, like people understand the reason for acquiring life insurance, you better make it easy for them to do it. So that's the challenge that our business unit has. And as a marketer, I'm trying to figure out how we can best convey the message and the importance of those life insurance products to the end member while they take the friction out of the process.
That's great. Well, we are out of time. Just want to close on a question for the audience around, look, is your brand focused on selling products and services with a great CX? Or are you focused on improving your customers' lives to solve a problem or to help them achieve a goal through the experience they have with your brand? Brands are redefining CX by making that experience their business, and they're focusing on the latter. So if you want to focus on growth and you need to focus on growth, pivot to the CX around the business. And if you want to learn more, reach out to Greg, to Dan, to me on LinkedIn. You can also find our latest research on accentureinteractive.com/business of experience. And hope you all have a great rest of your Wednesday. And thanks for joining.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, everyone.
Sure.